Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video on the channel, OTV Football. Really excited to be making another video today. I know it's been a couple of weeks since my last one on the AFCON review. Been under the weather for the past couple of weeks, so that's the only reason. Got a lot more videos coming out and shorts coming this week. Really excited to be making this video regarding the Intercontinental Playoffs that are upcoming in the month of March, so about a month away, and just kind of to delve in to this little mini tournament for the World Cup. Now, for those wondering who are not familiar with kind of the formats, I know most of the people watching this probably are, but just to give a disclaimer, the Intercontinental Playoffs are two spots of the six remaining for the World Cup, and they will be decided by six teams in two three-team playoff formats in a Path A and Path B that are played in Mexico, and ultimately the winner of each path will qualify for the World Cup. And the confederations for the teams that are competing include CAF, CONMEBOL, CONCACAF, the AFC, and Oceania. Those are the only teams left. Obviously, no UEFA teams in this Intercontinental Playoff. In a couple of days, I'll be also releasing my UEFA playoff predictions for the last four spots of the six total for the World Cup. But ultimately, for these two spots, no UEFA teams. Ultimately, the only confederation I believe that is left out of this playoff just due to the amount of spots they get. But really excited again just to be making this video, and we'll get into the pathways very shortly. So make sure to hit like, subscribe, and let's get into this playoff predictions. For Path A, we have Jamaica versus New Caledonia, and the winner will play the DR Congo to advance to the World Cup. Now, maybe some of the people watching this videos are fans of some of these teams, so you might have a little bit more insight than others into how these teams play. But for me, out of these three teams, the team I've watched the least is, of course, New Caledonia. This is a team that Oceania now has 1.5 berths going into the World Cup. They used to only have half a berth, so they would have to play in an intercontinental playoff. And a berth basically means, in that term, it's an automatic bid to go to the World Cup. So you qualify directly from winning the Oceania region. The team that did that was New Zealand. They beat New Caledonia in the final. I believe it was 3-0 to advance to the World Cup. New Caledonia now, they're the half berth, so they're the second place team in Oceania, and they now will play in the Intercontinental Playoff to head to the World Cup. Now, New Caledonia was actually qualified for the U20 Youth World Cup. So their football for such a tiny island, I think of around 100,000 people, is pretty impressive, let alone the fact that they have no big footballing giants around them. I mean, the closest would be a New Zealand or an Australia, and then if you go further north into some of the big Asian islands like Japan, etc. Ultimately, though, there is no big footballing giants, in such a close proximity, and the fact that they're qualifying for these tournaments, I know it's expanded, etc., but to compete against some of the other islands, it shows that they do have a decent footballing infrastructure at that level in respect. So, pretty impressive for them. But they play against Jamaica are a team of so much promise, of so much flair. They just released these new kits, which are just unreal. I'll show you guys on the screen right there. But Jamaica, for me, are a team, with a lot of decent players. Damari Gray, Ethan Pinnock, I believe, from Brentford. They had Michail Antonio, Leon Bailey, the star who just never shone. They have a lot of decent talent, a lot of championship level talent, low level Premier League level talent, and unfortunately, they just were not able to qualify directly through the World Cup, which they should have. They just failed to beat Curacao at home on the final day, which was, pretty embarrassing. Steve McLaren, Curacao, by the way, didn't even have their manager for that match, Dick Advocaat. He was dealing with some personal matters, and so had to watch it from the Netherlands. But ultimately, Jamaica are a team that should be in this World Cup already, and unfortunately did not qualify. I think they will win this match, but I do not think that it will be a blowout. I think Jamaica is going to win this match 2-0, 3-0 max. I really think, I'd say 1 or 2-0 is the more likely score. I think it's going to be a pretty sluggish game. Again, the factor we've talked about for Jamaica is one of, the odd factors is if they get Mason Greenwood, it changes their dynamic as a team in terms of the player quality that they have. Mason Greenwood has been objectively regardless of the off-the-field stuff, he's been objectively a statistically dominant player in Liga this season. So if they get him, it changes things, but it doesn't seem like they will, unless the new manager comes in after Steve McLaren and starts to recruit him heavily. But Jamaica, for me, should win this match, 1 or 2-0. Playing in Mexico, they'll have fans there, etc. They then advance to play the DR Congo, who, this is in a very interesting matchup. The DR Congo, round of 16 team, good side, should also be in the World Cup, to be honest. We're beating Senegal 2-0 at home to go to the World Cup and choked it, lost 3-2. They have quality players. They did well in the AFCON despite not even having their best player in Yohan Wissa, the guy who scores goals. Defensively brilliant, build up from the back well. I think they beat Jamaica relatively comfortable. I think they win this game 2-0. Maybe a 2-1 if Jamaica get a lucky goal late, but I think that's how this game's going to go. I think the DR Congo are well-deserved winners of this playoff if they get through, and should ultimately be a decent challenge in their group, alongside Portugal, Colombia, and Uzbekistan. So that's how I predict this group to go. DR Congo just have too much talent. Noah Sadiki, Yohan Wissa, Theo Mongonda, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Axel Tuanzebe. I mean, the list goes on and on. Mukau in the midfield. They have good players. I like Sebastian Desabre as a manager as well. Really, the DR Congo have been on the cusp of qualifying for a World Cup for so long. They now have legitimate talent to do so. They're no longer an underdog nation in Africa. They are a top side, and I think they should be going to this World Cup relatively comfortably. Pathway 2. Now, again, these matches are played in Mexico, and this specifically for this pathway I think is very important. We have Suriname, a CONCACAF team, Bolivia, a CONMEBOL team, and then Iraq in the AFC. Bolivia will play Suriname to go, and the winner will advance to play against Iraq in the final day. For me, the Bolivia-Suriname matchup, for people who don't follow CONCACAF World Cup qualifying, Suriname have good players. Geraldo Becker was one of the best players in the Bundesliga a few seasons ago for Union Berlin. And I think Suriname have the capability to beat Bolivia. Bolivia, by the way, lost to Panama, the U.S., and Uruguay in the last Copa America. Panama, obviously, being a CONCACAF team, not exactly a top side. Suriname did play Panama in both matches. I believe Suriname was in Panama's group. Panama ultimately did top the group, but it was just due to goal difference. Suriname had caused them problems in the group stages earlier before as well. So I think this is going to be an interesting game. The difference maker is solely going to be the fans in this game, and I think that's going to help Bolivia in this matchup, and I think it's going to get Bolivia over the line to beat Suriname. So I'm going to say Bolivia win 1-1 on penalties, or win 2-1, 1-0, a very tight-knit game. Probably goes the distance into extra time, I'd say. But, Suriname, I've watched a lot of them in CONCACAF. Good side. Bolivia, away from home, they suck, but I just think they're going to get it done to their fans and their infrastructure that they have heading into this tournament from that regard, just from the external intangible factors that they have. And then they play Iraq, and the winner of this game plays Iraq, and Iraq are a side that, if you watch them in AFC qualification, they're managed by Graham Arnold, who is the manager of Australia in the last World Cup, in the 2022 World Cup. Very defensive, 4-4-2 pragmatic side. Have decent players. Jadad Iqbal, former Manchester United talent, doesn't even start for them most of the time, but scored a huge goal in qualification for them. They're a side that, I think has decent players, decent talent, and a very good identity about them. And I think are the best team out of the three between Bolivia, Suriname, and, of course, Iraq themselves. So what I will say is I just think Iraq heading into play in Mexico, and it's just a different environment, and these types of factors are going to be what favors Bolivia just because of the semi-familiar terrain of that part of the world. And I think Bolivia is going to get the job done, and I think, again, on penalties or a 1-0, something like that. But I would not be shocked. I'm very tempted to pick Iraq here just because I think Iraq are the better team, but I think Bolivia is going to do it just solely due to the infrastructure. Now, it might, come back to bite me, and Suriname might beat Bolivia, and Bolivia just goes out in the first round. I wouldn't be surprised. Bolivia, if this was a neutral kind of game, or if this was played in a different area of the world, I'd say Bolivia would be out, very early. I don't rate Bolivia at all, but I think their fans can help them get over the line in these games. So I'm going to say Bolivia qualifies for the 2026 World Cup. I think it might be their first World Cup. Someone might have to fact check me on that. But I'm sorry I'm this much of an idiot, but I apologize to my Bolivian fans. Anyway, I cannot be more excited for this Intercontinental Playoff, and especially, again, the UEFA playoffs as well. Going to be such good international football this upcoming month in March. But let me know what you guys think. If you guys agree or disagree with kind of my predictions on Bolivia and the DR Congo advancing to the World Cup, let me know in the comments what you guys think below. And of course, my UEFA playoff predictions, World Cup predictions. We got some Champions League match day predictions as well coming up. So make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to tune in for future videos. And I'll see you guys next one. Peace. I'm sorry you guys had to endure that painful outro. But again, looking forward to seeing you guys next one. Thank you.